move on. And we'll be back with more news. And from AA.com.tr, Hamas and Hezbollah hold talks on Palestinian regional developments. Meetings come amid rising tensions in occupied West Bank. Palestinian movement Hamas held talks on Sunday with Lebanese group Hezbollah on developments in the occupied territories, the movement said in a statement. Our Hamas delegation, led by political deputy chief Salah al-Aruri, met with Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon. Both sides reviewed the latest developments in occupied Palestine, especially the resistance in the West Bank and Jerusalem, and the internal events inside Israel, the Hamas statement said. Israel's seen mass protests over the past 2 months over a planned judicial overhaul by the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, seen by the opposition as an attempt to reduce the powers of the judicial authority in favor of the executive authority. Sunday's meeting came as tensions have been rising across the occupied West Bank in recent months amid repeated Israeli raids into Palestinian towns. Nearly 90 Palestinians have been killed by Zionist fire since the start of this year. Hamas Hezbollah hold talks on Palestinian regional developments. Palestinian movement Hamas held talks on Sunday with Lebanese group Hezbollah on developments in the occupied territories. The movement said in a statement, Anadolu reports. A Hamas delegation led by political deputy chief Salah al-Aruri met with Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon. Both sides reviewed the latest developments in occupied Palestine, especially the resistance in the West Bank and Jerusalem, and the internal events inside Israel. The Hamas statement said the Zionists have seen mass protests over the past 2 months over planned judicial overhaul by the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And from Naharnet, which looks to be a Lebanese outlet, Hezbollah chief Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah has met with a senior Hamas delegation led by Sheikh Salah al-Aruri, the deputy head of the Palestinian movement's political bureau, Hezbollah said on Sunday. According to Hezbollah's statement, Nasrallah and the delegation discussed the latest developments in occupied Palestine, especially the heroic and brave resistance in the West Bank and in Al-Quds. They also attacked the domestic events in the usurper Zionist entity, the political developments in the region, and the responsibilities of the resistance movements and the entire axis of resistance in this historic period, the statement said. And from Al-Mayadeen, Hamas delegation meets with Nasrallah. Hezbollah Secretary General Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah meets with the deputy head of the political bureau of Hamas, Salah al-Aruri. Hezbollah Secretary General Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah met with deputy head of the political bureau of Hamas, Salah al-Aruri, and his accompanying delegation on Sunday. The two leaders discussed and assessed the political and field developments in Palestine, most notably the resistance in the occupied West Bank and Al-Quds, and the mounting internal political crisis within the Israeli occupation. They also reviewed regional political developments, the obligations of resistant movements, and the overall Axis resistance in this historical period. This comes shortly after Hezbollah Secretary General Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah received a delegation from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement, headed by PIJ Secretary General Ziad al-Nakhala. The meeting saw the two leaders discussing the situation in the region and the challenges facing the Palestinian resistance. Both Saeed Nasrallah and al-Nakhala underlined the continuation of bilateral consultation and coordination in order to bolster resistance against the Zionist occupation. Moreover, they voiced their appreciation for the heroism of the Palestinian people, as well as that of the brave fighters who have been bravely confronting the Zionist occupation's gangs and criminal army on Palestine territories, especially in Al-Quds and the West Bank. All of the developments taking place in the West Bank and the Palestinian interior are highly important in the struggle of resistance, Saeed Nasrallah said last week, stressing that the turning point for the Israeli occupation today is that there's a prevailing culture similar to what happened during the forced May 25th withdrawal from southern Lebanon. Today, the priority should be extending a helping hand to the Palestinian fighters, pushing the Israeli occupation into the abyss, he underlined. Furthermore, the military affairs commentator of the Israeli Channel 13, Alon Ben David, recently said that Saeed Nasrallah is reading the situation in Zionism or Zionist-occupied Palestine correctly, and everyone observing the events in the entity realizes that the Zionist occupation and its society is falling apart. He added that everyone who looks at Zionists, whether at home or abroad, realizes that Israeli society is shattered and divided, stressing that the Zionists' enemies are encouraged by what's happening inside Israeli society today. Knesset member and former Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot also said that Israel is passing through one of the most dangerous security periods since the Yom Kippur War, in reference to the 1973 October War. What came out of that? The Oslo Accords, I think. All right. From Press TV, Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad chiefs meet in Lebanon for talks on closer coordination against the Zionists. The two sides review the challenges facing the Palestinian resistance during a meeting in a southern suburb of Beirut on Saturday and underlined the need for greater future cooperation between the two movements in a way that could further bolster the resistance front to Zionist plots, Lebanon's Arabic language Al Mayadeen television news network reported. Nasrallah and Nakhala also praised the heroism of the Palestinian nation and the bravery of resistance fighters who've been courageously standing up against Israeli militia groups and military forces across the occupied Palestinian territories, especially in Al-Quds and the West Bank. Last week, the Hezbollah leader stressed the significance of all developments taking place throughout Palestinian lands. Special attention should now be paid to rendering assistance to Palestinian resistance fighters who are trying to push the occupying Israeli regime into the abyss, he said at the time. Over the past few months, the Zionists have ramped up attacks on Palestinian towns and cities throughout the occupied territories. As a result of their attacks, dozens of Palestinians have lost their lives and many others have been arrested. Most of the raids have focused on Nablus and Jenin, where Zionist forces have been trying to stifle a growing Palestinian resistance in the occupied territories. Local and international rights groups have condemned Zionists' excessive use of force and shoot-to-kill policy against Palestine. And from Memo, Islamic Jihad leader holds talks with Hezbollah chief in Lebanon. Leader of Palestinian group Islamic Jihad Ziad al-Nakhala met Saturday with Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon, Anadolu reports. A statement by the Palestinian group said talks between the two sides took up a regional development theme and challenges facing the Palestinian resistance were discussed as well. The two sides agreed to continue consultation and coordination with a view to enhancing the resistance against Israel, the statement said. Tensions escalate across the occupied West Bank in recent weeks amid repeated Israeli military raids into Palestine towns. According to Palestinian figures, at least 88 Palestinians were killed by Zionist fire since the beginning of this year. 14 Israelis were also killed in separate attacks during the same period. And from almanar.com.lb, Hamas delegation meets with Saeed Nasrallah. Hezbollah Secretary General Saeed Hassan Nasrallah received a delegation from Palestine's Hamas resistance movement led by its Politburo deputy head Salah al-Aruri. Saeed Nasrallah and al-Aruri tackled the latest developments in occupied Palestine, especially the heroic resistance operations in the West Bank and Al-Quds, as well as the internal conflict in the Zionist entity. They also discussed the latest political developments in the region, as well as the responsibilities placed on the resistance movements and the entire axis of resistance in this historical stage. And Saeed Nasrallah welcomes Naqallah, addresses on Wednesday morning service of late Hezbollah commander al-Shami. And this is also from Al-Manar. Hezbollah Secretary General Saeed Hassan Nasrallah welcomed the Secretary General of Palestine's Islamic Jihad Ziad Naqallah and the accompanying delegation. The meeting reviewed the general situation in the region as well as the challenges facing the Palestinian resistance, reiterating coordination between the two sides to confront the Zionist enemy. The conferees also held the heroic feats of the Palestinian people and resistance fighters facing the Israeli gangs in the occupied Al-Quds and West Bank. Saeed Nasrallah is scheduled to address the memorial service held at Mushtaba complex in Beirut's Dahiyeh on Wednesday at 15:30 to mourn the late Hezbollah commander Hussein al-Shami, the Director General of Al-Qard al-Hassan Association.